but yeah, we all know the name. And so when he was a kid, Elvis took him to the country fair, and they have like the carnival. They have all the carny games, all the dart games and that. And so they won, but the guy didn't want to give out the prize, and Elvis Presley punched the guy in the face. So actually, anytime they have like an annual family gathering thing, big event, they invite this Swami, this monk, to be there because he's a long close family member, the friend of the family. Okay. Nice to be here with all of you. Many of you I've met before. I came here about 3 weeks ago to kind of have an interview at the Bhakti Center. And I also moved here about 10 days ago. So I was here last Saturday. So I met you. And your name is again? Jignasha. Jignasha Shreyutam. That means very thoughtful, inquisitive. And so she's our model spokesperson for the Soul Talks. The next poster is going to have Jignasha on the poster. And I'm not sure if we met.
Yes.
What is your name?
Linda.
Linda, and you're from?
New York.
New York. All right. Nice. And I met you?
Tuan.
Tuan. And you speak any other language? Vietnamese, yes. I think we spoke about mine. I grew up in Honolulu. I was one of the very few non-Asian kids in the high school. It's like everybody is Asian. My sister herself also, she's, here's the list. You ready? Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, white, black, Indian, Spanish, Korean. That's my half sister. And so I met Prashanti. We met last Saturday as well. And we met the first visit.
Yeah, Ross.
Ross, right? As R, I was like Richard something, yeah. And then we met.
Last time, I think.
Yeah. Yes. What can you remember your name?
Leon.
Leon and Aniruddha. So thank you all. And so many of you are familiar with some of the yoga tradition, different concepts that are found in the books such as the Yoga Sutras. Some of you have taken classes. You've been coming for a little bit, isn't it? No? You've been coming. How many times have you been to this class here?
That's the second time.
Second time. All right. Okay. So this. Okay. Perfect. No problem. And Ross has been coming for a while. Prashanti first time. So in the Yoga Sutras, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the ancient Vedic literatures, it talks about one of the first things it covers is some basic biology. Anybody taking a biology class here? Okay, multiple choice question. How does the body grow? Is it A? I know we got a PhD student, or
I have a picture.
he already has his PhD. So multiple choice question. Bodies grow just like balloons. That's A. They're just the same thing, and they just stretched and got bigger. Like you add air and water to a balloon, it's just the same thing. Or B, your old cells are replaced by new cells or multiples of new cells. A or B? A. It's like it's A. Okay. So as we learn in biology, within a period of 7 years, everything starts to become replaced. All your cells become replaced. But Prashanti's mother will still let her in the house, wasn't it? Even though, scientifically speaking, that is not the body she gave birth to. Not one cell of it is there. It's completely changed. But something inside is still remaining, and that is called the Atma, also called Jiva, the self, the soul. So if the self, the soul, is different from the body, then why do we always identify this body? Like we always say, I am, I'm Vietnamese or I'm from Hawaii. Even though the thing is, the body that we have is always changing. Just like I'm not black shirt, black pants man. I can change these pants. I can change this shirt, and I will still exist. And so somebody throughout this life, I'm changing my body. Every single cell of it is being changed. I'm still here. So that's the actual drishti, the person who sees everything, who's witnessing the world, witnessing the change of body. Not only can you witness the change of body, you can even witness the change of mind. You can sit as an observer of your mind. That is what yoga is meant to help one come to the point of even understanding the distinction between the mind and self. Therefore, we do not become constantly influenced by whatever our mind tells us to do. Has anybody ever done anything that they wish they did not have done? No regrets. Or it's like that famous. It's a picture from a movie, but the person has a tattoo that says "No regrets." Nicely spelled, perfectly good. So there is I saw this nice little experiment. It was done by a magician. His name is not David Blaine. It's a British magician. Does a lot of Jedi mind tricks kind of stuff. It'll probably come to me later, but I think so he invited, like we're all invited here, he invited the top, some employees from the top advertising firm in London to come and to participate in an experiment. He paid them to come and make a name, like what do you call that? That's branding, basically. Give a brand, give a logo, make an ad, give a tagline, give a slogan for a particular company that we're going to start. Now the company was just part of the experiment. It wasn't a real company. So the idea was it was a line of taxidermy shops. Everybody knows what that is? It's stuffed dead animals, like if you go to Wyoming and they've got an elk on the wall or something. It's like, probably not a promising business, but this is just for an experiment. And so they got a taxi for them. They brought them to the office, and they handed them an envelope. Said, "Okay, 30 minutes. I want you. They're quick. This is one of the best companies in London that works with branding and marketing." And he said, "Okay, give it a name, give it a slogan, and give us an ad. And when you're done, open this envelope." And so they got busy working. They started drawing, and they at the end they made a bear in the clouds with angel wings, and it said "Animal Heaven," where the animals go after. And there was like a kind of like pearly gates of heaven. And once they were done, they said, "Okay, now open the envelope." What was in the envelope? It was a picture of a bear in the clouds with angel wings. And they both actually had a harp in their hands. And nice gate, heaven's gate kind of thing. And it said "Animal Heaven," same name. And the slogan was the same thing, but not written exactly in the same manner. It was the same idea, where the animals go when it's time. So how did they do it? Has anybody seen the video? Anybody guess? Was the guy a real Jedi? Was he practicing yoga or something? He became very powerful in his mental fortitude. It was the taxi ride. They had planted things in the taxi ride. They had driven past the music shop with a harp in the window. They had driven past the zoo, and a bunch of children wearing zoo's gate logo walked across from the stoplight. They had passed an animal hospital, and they, even when they came out of the building, this guy had a package and it had wings drawn on it. And at the very end, those conceptualizers, those artists were feeling, I'm going to come up with a great idea, a bear in the clouds with a harp. This is such a great idea that I have. But as we see, he was actually conditioned to work in a particular way. So the topic of today is understanding our conditionings. So how many of you, when you were a kid, you went up to the TV and you looked really close and you saw, what did the colors did you see?
Black and white.
Black and white, okay. And how about the color TV? What would you see? What would you see?
Yeah, you see like one sport colors?
If you go up really close, you only see 3 colors.
Just red, green.
Red, green, and blue, yeah. Or I think we have now, it's we have the primary colors in art are red, yellow, and blue. And but in TVs they have kind of just a slight adjustment, but it's the same thing. It's an adjustment of the primary colors. Now with 3, you multiply that together, and then you get 9. 9, you get 81. And 81, you get, the number just keeps on getting bigger and bigger of different varieties of colors that are just a mixture of the 3. So in the Vedic culture, it talks about 3 energies, 3 flavors of reality that are found as the characteristics behind everything. And when we are in this world, we associate with those different characteristics. So I'm using here the Sanskrit word because the English sometimes, the understanding we kind of lose the understanding when we look at the English. Usually in English, they'll say sattva, they'll say the word goodness. Rajas, they'll say passion. And tamas, they'll say ignorance. So, and we so many different ideas and definitions may come to mind when we hear those words. But I think this concept of the 3 gunas, it becomes much easier to understand and conceptualize when we start to see different examples and we start to kind of get grasp it and get our own understanding of it. So I wanted to make a form that you could fill out for yourself to find out what gunas you find yourself most associating with. Because it's kind of self-assessment. I just moved here and I'm staying at my mother-in-law's place. We're looking for an apartment, so it's been rough trying to get that form finished. So we'll just try to do it as self-assessment as we go through. Okay. And so as we go through, then it'll start to become, okay, I understand what this is talking about. So sattva, time of the day, sattva, early morning. Tell me something about the early morning. Right when the sun is rising, or before the sun is rising, what is the energy in the air?
Spiritual.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh, spiritual.
Quiet.
Quiet. Calm.
There's a lot of happy birds.
Happy birds.
Yes.
Yes. They're very excited for the day, making their song.
I mean, everything that's said, all everything
And
peaceful.
peaceful. Is there a lot of crime at 6:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. Criminals are kind of done with their day by then. It's so what we're trying to point out is that there's a certain energetic atmosphere. It's not just it's an actual phenomenon of inspiration. So what is the inspiration that early morning does? There's the mind, if it's really early, the mind may be also less in a rush, less in the mode of rajas. As we are going to learn, rajas is all about building my empire, becoming the boss, becoming the god, the guy that owns that flat on the 130th floor of that building next to Central Park that he doesn't live in, that he just got as an investment. As all the other floors in the whole building are. Nobody lives there. It's just an investment. Okay, so daytime, how does that feel? Midday. How do you feel? Do you feel like this is the time to really get your work done, to build that empire. And at night, late night, crazies start getting a little bit more crazy.
Party time.
Party time, yes, party time, sleep time, romance time. Different kind of inspirations are coming, isn't it? During these different times. There's a different type of feel. Like I remember, I think it was last week, you can feel it in the city, especially the shift between busy time and party time. A city can be party time almost always. This Thomas is that kind of energy is always there, but still, you come out, you say, I'm here at the temple and I'm working in the office and I leave at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and I feel, oh, the energy in the air is shifting. It's getting a little, people are feeling more inspired for that party time. So it's coming. It's time of the day. What do you think, what of those times do you feel most valuable to you? Where is your attraction going? You don't have to say it, but you can contemplate it. Where do you feel like, okay, I need to get more of this time? Work time, party time, early morning meditation time. That's why monks in all kinds of traditions around the world, they would engage in meditation in the early morning because the mind would actually be more peaceful. It would be less going through different tasks and things to do. Just a little time for our own personal development. Okay. Place of residence. Here's the next one. So sattva. A home that has that quality of sattva is when you look out the window and you see a lake and there's swans on the lake. For a city person, that might just drive them mad. I know my wife is like, go crazy in a city like that, in a place like that. But that's the home in sattva. Home in rajas, right here in the city. Home in tamas. What is that? Red light district. Bar. Maybe you have like a kind of basement level, sub-basement level kind of bar. A home that's next to the bar, attached to the park. It is a bar. Brothel even. That's the energy of tamas. So the Neosita-based quality of sattva, it's generally for self-development, personal, spiritual upliftment. Rajas is characterized by a sense of personal gain. The material gain. Tamas is characterized by sleep, madness, destruction. You have in the Vedic culture, it describes that time is cyclical, that the whole universe has a cycle, just like we have winter, summer, spring, fall, we have all these seasons. Similarly, the whole universe goes through cycles. It has a creative period. Withrajas, the things are being created. It has a part where everything is sustained. Sattva. At the end, it's destroyed, but then again, it starts over again. It's cyclical. It goes on like that. Okay. So now let's see, what kind of food do we like to eat? What kind of food do we like to eat? Let's see. Sattva. Does anybody want to read this? Can you see that?
Sattva is foods dear to those in the mode of good.
So this is someone who is well situated in their consciousness in sattva. They will be attracted to this kind of food. And someone who is well situated on the opposite spectrum, tamas, will be maybe even disgusted by food and sattva. So many of you might know one of our teachers who came to New York in 1965. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami came here with a trunk of books, a bag of oatmeal, 2 heart attacks aboard a cargo ship with no money. And he started the first temple on 2nd Avenue, first temple outside of India, first temple in the United States. And his teacher had sent monks to Burma and throughout Asia to share some of the Vedic wisdom, yogic wisdom. And they went to this one village and they were cooking bread and butter. Now, how does bread and butter smell?
How does what smell?
Bread and butter smell.
Good.
Good. It's like,
If it's fresh, it's sweet.
it's just like a universal, like everybody is like, man, that smells great. Like your appetite starts, man, that's so good. So they were very confused. These monks were very confused when they came out of when they came to the village and they were cooking, and people came out of their homes and they're like, oh, what is this smell? And they all started coming and complaining, and the monks were really confused because they were preparing free food for everybody. They were very confused, and they found that in this village there was a special delicacy called nafi. Nafi basically means that whenever you find like a roadkill, like there's like many rats you see in the subways, you put it in a glass jar and you sit it in the sun and you let it ferment there for a couple weeks, and you get one of those little turkey basters and suck up the juice. And then if it is your lucky birthday, then you can get some nafi sprayed on top of your food. I think all of you are much insightful because I don't think you don't seem like you're being very enticed by this advertisement for nafi. And so someone who is really into, like say you go to somebody who is suffering some kind of severe heroin, cocaine addiction, or any kind of these heavy, hardcore drugs, and say, hey, let's go do some yoga and have a smoothie. That is not appealing to the person. That sattva kind of attraction is not appealing. There's a strong taste for tamas. And tamas also has not just a taste, but it's a limitation on one's kind of consciousness. The word for these energies is called gunas. We'll repeat that so you don't forget it. Gunas.
Guna.
And once again, what is it? Gunas. And guna, another meaning for guna is road. So tama guna, also called tamas. We got our sat. Basically, we got three friends. We got our tamas, Raja, Roger, Thomas, and Sam. I guess Sam. So the Thomas, when one is influenced by Thomas, it's like being tied with three ropes. One is influenced by Rajas, it's being like tied by two ropes. Influenced by Sattva, it's being tied by one rope. There's more freedom granted to the individual. It's like so someone who is suffering a severe addiction, their personal freedom is very, very limited because the influences of that are on the mind are so strong. It is hard to make decisions outside of those influences. You saw in this example how the advertising agency, they were convinced that this was their own personal idea. But we see how easy it is to the mind to be conditioned to a particular outcome. So foods that are in sattva, they're ayu. You heard this? Anybody heard of Ayurveda? Ayurveda is the medicinal science of India, so the science of health. So ayu means health. So foods that are in sattva, they increase your health. They purify one's existence. They give clarity to the mind. They don't make you feel like, kind of in darkness. They give clarity. They give strength, health, happiness, satisfaction. They're juicy, fatty, like fatty doesn't mean like animal fat, but it can be like milk fat, or they're wholesome, pleasing to the heart. Foods that are rajas, those who are attached to rajas. And we find ourselves, we're going through these things. Isn't it? Someday you wake up and you're in rajas, isn't it? Someday you wake up and you're just like, you're very busy and maybe you are achieving successful and you're completing a lot of things, but your mind is just consumed with achieving all your goals. Sometimes we're in tamas, we become very angry very easily. And sometimes we feel ourselves more meditative. And somebody's really rude to us, and we feel like we don't feel this tendency to even want to lash back. We're a little bit less conditioned by that energy. So foods in the mode of passion are too sour, too bitter, too salty, too hot, too pungent, too dry, and too burning. And what are the effects? They cause distress, misery, and disease. So if you eat something that is too spicy, it reduces the mucus in your intestines. Therefore, you can get ulcers. Or too bitter. Basically, nothing is balanced here. It's not the proper balance of flavors, proper balance of nutrients, not the proper balance of carbs. It's just extreme. And foods in the mode of darkness. Do you like the picture I picked? Some canned croc. It's kind of like that nafi. Canned crocodile, right? Oh, nice. So foods that are decomposing. Actually, vegetarian food can be in rajas and sattva, but rarely in tamas. Because it still has this energy of life, and not like a death, but life. It has this energetic principle of prana. Okay, so food, if you eat food that is out of the garbage can, that's called remnants. Food consisting of untouchable things, tasteless, decomposed, putrid, old. So that's tamas. Okay, so this is what happens with sattva. Sattva creates clarity. If we associate with sattva, it creates real knowledge. If we associate with rajas, we associate with that passionate energy, we just become more greedy. And then you associate with the kind of destructive energy, then we might find ourselves in madness, illusion, or foolishness. Some questions here. Let's stop and see some reflections. So I'm going to start our favorite friend here.
Yes.
Yes, give us some thoughts from seeing all this.
It's really good to have powerful images because if it's things are just written out, it's hard to get an idea.
Oh,
But it's like you kind of have an idea just through looking at the pictures here.
nice. Thank you. Actually, I started working on this a long time ago. It's an unfinished project. And as we go down, I'm running out of pictures, but it definitely needs pictures. The pictures really like set the mood. And although this is like a foreign topic for most people, you start to grasp, oh, okay, I can understand that. I can understand this Rajas.
You're running out of images. Have you checked Google Images?
No, I haven't worked on this. It's just been like, I was just doing it as a hobby. I was just putting all this together. I think, oh, it'd be nice to have all this information.
I love it. Appreciate it.
And if anybody wants the link, just let me know, and I have this link. And there's a lot of information. There's information based on your Ayurvedic body type, your traditional Indian medicine body type. But I'm Pitta and Kapha, it's a particular type of body type. You can see your body type is something that is set. You can increase those elements, but the modes, that is something that you can change. Your consciousness you can change, but your body is the same. Like your body type is going to remain the same. So you can see, oh, this is what I'm like when I'm doing well. And this is what I'm like when I'm kind of okay. And this is what I'm like when I'm in a bad position. So, which one's the best so far? Which one seems like the best out of the three modes? Sattva. So here it talks about, in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it talks about what are the entanglements of all three. Not just two, all three. So the entanglement, that's why I want to work on this more, because some of it starts to get a little repetitive, but tamas, if the entanglement is madness, indolence, being prone to sleep too much, like someone who sleeps 12 hours, like, and sometimes we may examine a particular item based on its nutrition, but we don't examine it based on its effect on the consciousness. Like, for example, what has been legalized in New York a few years ago? Marijuana. Now, it definitely has what energy? What is the kind of energy? It's got kind of a lazy energy, right? It's kind of a apathetic kind of energy to it. So someone might say, okay, it's really good for pain relief. But what is the effect on the spirit, the heart? Kind of lazy. This maybe even lazy in regards to personal development. And so that's not something we would study in a university usually, but it is. But some people just have that intuition, like, okay, well, you can examine, well, maybe it's not as bad as cigarettes, maybe it's not as bad as this or that. But what is it? How does it affect one's kind of spirit towards life? Usually, marijuana is not very conducive for becoming a big business person, like being Rajas, and not Sattva either. It's more of this kind of lazy spirit, apathetic. So, Raja, here it says, entangled by. Welcome. Can you remind? I think we met before.
Yes, Anupam.
Anupam. Oh, so we got two Anupams
Yes,
here.
yeah, I know.
Oh, sweet. And where are you from?
India.
Aap kahan se hai?
Yeah, perfect. New Delhi in India.
New Delhi. Oh, okay, very nice. So here's the entanglement of sattva. So we're going over the three gunas. Have you heard of the three gunas
Yes.
before? So just a little peek, times of the day. early morning, daytime till twilight, late evening. These are the how this is when sattva, when you feel that kind of influence, the influence of rajas, middle of the day. Then you got your place of residence, peaceful country, home in the city, and living in the red light districts. Foods that are dear to those in sattva. They're very, see, I should put the qualities before the effects. It's the first time actually showing this presentation. So there's a lot more to do to this. There's so much more to do for this one. But yeah, they're basically healthy, hearty vegetarian food that brings your mind, if it's done in the right amount and right balance, then you eat it and you don't feel like you're gonna be knocked out after. You feel it's just giving you good inspiration. Passion, too sweet, too spicy, too bitter, too hot. And tamas, this is like it's gross, old canned nasty things. And sattva develops knowledge, raj develops greed, and tamas develops all kinds of destructive qualities. But sattva, you become entangled by a sense of happiness. Now, somebody tell me what's wrong with that, especially if you haven't been coming here for a long time. Tell me what's wrong with entangled by a sense of happiness. Yes, on the copy, you raise your hand.
No, but
Yes.
Might lose your empathy for this easy kind of. I'm just guessing these
Okay.
maybe you're always like in a joyful state, kind of forget how it's like sad or.
Okay, nice. I like that. I like that. Any other? Sense of knowledge too. Entangled by the sense of knowledge. Well, it is said that this world is not our actual home. And so if you have your organic garden and your country home with the window view of the lake, with the swans on the lake, you might not really be fully inspired to get out of this actual place and go back to your real home, the spiritual realm. So it's like sometimes if the prison is too comfortable, someone doesn't realize that, well, there's a more glamorous life outside of the prison that you're missing out on. Actually, the Vedas have this story of a personality named Indra. He is an angel, a demigod, who lives a life that is thousands of times more potent, opulent, and materially enjoyable than a human. We're so insignificant to this personality. But then he did something wrong, as is often the case, which for people who are very materially motivated, he's often seen to be very materially motivated. And he had been cursed to become a pig. And so he was born as a pig, and just for a certain period of time. And he had his pig wife and his pig children, and he was living. In America, we have kind of a romantic idea of how pigs live. Who's been outside of the country? Raise your hand. What places?
Thailand.
Thailand. So did you see any pigs there?
Thanks.
Don't
So
think
a
so.
lot of other
In
animals.
India, you see pigs, yeah.
I did see, actually, I saw, more like bulls.
Okay.
Different animals.
Okay. So pigs, we don't want to even mention what pigs eat. Oh. Basically, what comes through the sword is their favorite. If you had cake versus that, they would go for that. So Indra as a pig, they came down, communicated with Indra as a pig and said, hey, your time's up, you don't have to be anymore. He's like, but look at my gorgeous wife and look how beautiful her tail curls. And just smell her, she smells so wonderful. And I just sit by the sewer here and all these goodies come every moment. And like this, someone who is conditioned a certain way, a sense of happiness, then they might limit themselves to actually seek something higher and deeper. Okay. So we'll just kind of look over these. Any more take homes? What's a take home? This is Jignasha. Question or some element you're going to take home so far. And you were raising your hand?
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
I was also-
He's beating you. He's the inquisitive Jignasha is being beat. Yes.
Oh, so I saw like it's like what I took away from this is like you kind of observe yourself in these three states, like in like kind of like what it teaches in Bhagavad Gita, kind of like with non-judgment. It's like oh, this is how's like when he says like how's like when I'm here, how's like when I'm here, you just kind of observe it and
Yeah.
not judge yourself. It's like oh, I feel
And
better.
it helps you actually understand that, say if somebody is in Thomas, you can understand that we do not come from what is called we come from what is called a pure soul theology. So some of you might have heard that, the soul is sinful by birth. It's something I grew up learning when I was a kid. But the Eastern thought is that there's a pure soul theology that basically we are the original characteristic of the self is being covered, and we're trying to peel off those coverings. Just like if I paint a light bulb blue, what does the color come up? And what is the light underneath it? White, and how much color is in the white light? Yeah, so a whole variety of a whole spectrum of character is being held back, and just a certain aspect, or maybe you can even say like a transformation, and maybe it would be a different example, we could find another analogy. But basically the real light of the person is covered over by the subtle mind. As we said, we're different from the body, and we're different from the mind. So the subtle mind, the real expression of the self is being covered over. And so that's why we do the chanting, because it's one of the very most powerful methods to clean off that covering and let the light of the self shine through. So sattva, so this objective is to come to that kind of spiritualization. So here's another analogy. Say you want to fly to Chicago. What's a good thing to do if you want to fly to Chicago?
What's a good thing to do?
Yeah, what's like a preparatory step?
Get a ticket.
Get a ticket. All right. So Aniruddha is obviously in Sattva Guna because he knew exactly what to do. Get a ticket.
You have to get a big cut. You have to get a really big cut.
Get
You
a
got a big cut. You got Chicago. It's fun.
Yeah, okay, yes, you're right. But so if you can go to the airport, you can go to the website, you go online, that's like probably a good, intelligent way to get a ticket to Chicago. How not to get a ticket to Chicago, how not to catch a plane to Chicago is to be in the mode of rajas. That means what do you do when you're in rajas and you want to get a ticket to Chicago, or the idea is like you want to actually, the analogies that we want to actually attain our spiritual enlightenment. So rajas is like, okay, I'm going to go to Chicago and I'm going to do that. I'm going to catch a plane by jumping up and down on the roof of my building until I catch a plane. And I'm going to jump as hard as I can. So we may look for happiness, and we try as hard as I can to enjoy the things of this world. And we find it doesn't fulfill us. It doesn't actually satisfy us, because once again, we are different from the body. So when we just do things for the vehicle, it doesn't really connect to the self within in a fulfilling way. We actually have to do something that addresses the driver of this vehicle, the self, the soul, the witness within the body. So jumping up and down on top of the roof of the building to catch a plane is like rajas. It's like trying to find happiness. It doesn't give you what you're looking for. And some of us might not believe that. But then there are those who actually have the tools, they actually have the wealth, they have the power to obtain the things that we just say, no, I just really need that money. I just really need that situation. Then I'll be happy. But then there are those who did massive amounts of sacrifice to attain great wealth, to attain fame, to attain position and power. And oftentimes you find suicide, or you find evidences of depression, drug addiction, all kinds of things, because it's not satisfied, because it doesn't actually achieve the desired result. Why do we do things in life? Russ, why do we do things? Why do you do things?
There's some goal in mind.
And what's that goal? Enjoyment. That's what everyone does, whatever they do. The soul is pleasure seeking. That's why we go to work. Because we want to enjoy having a roof over our head. And we want to have the ability to have, some friends or somebody to associate. We do think we're motivated by some kind of pleasure over every choice. But we find, again, jumping up and down on the roof is not a suitable way to obtain that. And then Thomas, what is the example of, instead of jumping up really hard, up and down on top of the roof, you just lie on the floor and you whine about it. I want to go to Chicago. I want to go. That's Thomas. And still, you don't obtain it. Sattva means you go to the website. You go to the airport. Then you're putting yourself in a position to obtain it. So that's why it's important to understand sattva, because it is the platform by which we have the tools to make progress. It is not the end. It's like if you want to grow something in a garden, it is the fertile soil. It is the proper situation to make that progress. Okay. So here, let's look through some of there are many examples given in the Gita. What do you do? What happens after you die? If you're in sattva, you go to the planets of the great sages. You're dying rajas. You take birth among human beings. And if you die in tamas, you become an animal. You die in a state of very ignorant state. Then Mother Nature says, here you go. You want to live like a pig? We won't stop you. If you want to live like a bear, you want to sleep all the time, no one's going to criticize you as a bear. No one's going to call you a whatever, some kind of slur if you're sleeping around with a bunch of ladies as a monkey. You've got a harem of monkeys or a harem of pigeons. If you just want only the physical things of this world, there's a whole variety of species that give you fulfill kinds of desires. What's the one thing that humans can do that the animals don't have that facility? Jignasha. Ras.
They can think about things that animals can't, like spirituality.
Like a self-reflection. Should I have killed that deer? The tiger is like, do I need to kill deer? Is there another way to live? That kind of self-examination, self-reflection. It's like back to the story of the condition, the advertisers. They were thinking that it was their desire, but they were conditioned to work in a certain way. So animal life is very much conditioned by the particular nature of the body. With human life, we can start to say, put a hold on, why do we have a wedding and a wedding ring? throughout the day, people see people that they're attracted to. Do they, but what civilized life is like, oh, you see someone you're attracted to, chase after them and go try to mate with them? No. No, just the mate dance or whatever. No, there's human life, there's something higher than that. Okay, there's maybe some attachment for some things of this world. Okay, then we have a situation where you can do it in a non-destructive way. Get married, non-destructive. Keep a nice family, non-destructive. But if you go around chasing and you've got kids in Wyoming, you've got kids in this state, kids in that state, it's very destructive. It only creates a lot of misery and unhappiness. Okay, results, purified. Results, rajas and passion, become miserable. Okay, see, that's what I'm saying. It starts to get a little bit of repetitive. Like this one, this is almost the same thing as the last one. Sattva, go to higher planets, rajas live on earthly planets. You can even go down to a hellish kind of experience, like take birth in like horrible situations. You've seen in this world, there's not only species, but a human life, but there are all kinds of situations. They're very horrible. Yes.
This is gonna be my takeaway.
Yes.
So there is actual reference to a higher planet.
Oh yeah, the Vedas describe that there are billions of planets in this universe, and some of them are, and they're full of life. There are billions of planets in the universe that have life. And some of them have life that the platform of existence is on a higher state of existence. They live longer, they live more in sattva, they have a more refined sense of life and pleasures.
So, because I know the way it works, it was good to kind of see from because there is a whole reincarnation concept.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
where this fits in.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
Not just-
my takeaway.
yeah,
I
not
didn't
just
know
one
that's
planet.
there. So that was interesting how you mentioned going back to an animal versus a human, that's between the rajas and tamas. And then sattva, you're going into something greater.
Yes.
But I know between rajas and tamas, you can, over lifetimes, go back and forth if you're not able to
Yeah,
get out of that. So if you do get to sattva, to one of these planets, can you still come back down?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Because sometimes sattva becomes prominent in your life, and sometimes tamaguна becomes prominent in your life.
so even if you
Yes.
get into that
Because,
stage, it's still
Yeah,
not.
these are all three of these are still material. They're not yet. This top one is still not spiritual, it's still material.
Oh,
There's
And
a
then
higher,
there's
there's a higher. And one interesting point is, depending on your frame of reference, you can examine, like your homework is to go out and examine the gunas at play, these modes, these energies. And depending on your frame of reference, something can be considered sattva or tamas, depending on what is the subject of reference. Okay, for example, let's look at a tree and say an insect and maybe a fish. What would be the kind of consciousness with sattva, rajas, tamas? Say that, like say you have like a little microbe. It might be, or some kind of small insect, it might have more freedom than the tree in its state of awareness. So that would be rajas, the tree would be in tamas. And the fish or maybe like small mammal would be in sattva. Now let's take the reference up. Now you have on the bottom, you have the insect, the mammal, and say maybe a higher mammal like a dog, a cow, a monkey, then it's like, okay, sattva, rajas, tamas. You take it up. And you have on the bottom, what do you have? You have some mammal, then you have a human, and then you have like Indra, the king of the angels. Sattva, rajas, tamas. Let's take it up even further. And then you have, on the bottom, you have humans. Then at the top of that, you have these angelic beings. And then you have great sages of higher planets, like the rishis that live like thousands of years or millions of years. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. It's like I saw one chart and it said it was showing fruits, and it was saying avocado is considered has more tamas than an orange, but doesn't mean avocado is a tamasic fruit. It's like it's good for you, but it's just in the same sense of like a frame of reference, like how it's looked at. Happiness and sattva. This is how Krishna talks about it. Poison in the beginning. So when you're starting elementary school, you don't want to. Preschool is fine. You can play games and stuff, but elementary school, when you start having to do schoolwork, it's like you don't want to do that. You just want to play. But sometimes there's some sacrifice in the beginning, so you can have a PhD like this fellow right here. So much sacrifice, but in the end, there's some benefit that's there. So sattva is like that. Sometimes, like you find, like those who are in sattva, they can practice simplicity, and practice certain principles, honesty, cleanliness, and something like, well, why do you have to shower in the morning? I don't know, I feel like, but it's a principle that it's like some kind of discipline that it's a little bit harder at the beginning, but the end result is like, I feel like people want to improve their psycho and physical status. Just take a shower. You feel, oh, my mind is clear. Take a shower and you wake up. Oh, my mind feels clearer now. My body feels a little bit vital. So there's this sense of, so poison in the beginning, but like nectar in the end. Rajas, the happiness of the kind of material things, like the success, the building your company. It is like nectar in the beginning, the poison in the end. Meaning, at some point, all those material things, like it gets pulled away from you. And then you can't hold on to everything. It starts to, old age takes this, something fails, you die, the business dies, everything starts to get pulled away from you. So, and happiness in tamas is like the happiness of someone who is in a heavily drug addicted situation. It's just all misery. Person is thinking that there's some enjoyment, but it's actually just miserable. It's not actual happiness. It's not joy. Let's see. Charity. Here, let's skip a few. Here's charity. You give some money. The person says, "Hey, I will give you my fix." I know we're talking about addiction a lot, and you give money to support someone's drug addiction. That's charity and tamas. You give money because you want that name of your name plastered all over the wall. That's rajas. That sense of I'm the boss, I'm building my empire, I want fame, I want power. But sattva means it's given just out of duty, that you know that I have a duty to give back. There is no self-made man. First, show me a baby who can take care of itself. We're all objects of charity. So we have things that we have to give back to this world. We gotta give back to our parents, we gotta give back to our educators, we gotta give back to even sometimes our nation. There's so many things that we are inheriting so much benefit from. So we have a duty to give back. So charity without expectation of return. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. Knowledge. Knowledge means, the jnana is a specific term. It often means ability to distinguish between matter and spirit. So when your knowledge is in sattva, you can see the soul, not maybe not physically see like, oh, I see like a little spark going, but you see everything as a spirit. You don't see, oh, here is Chinese person, here's a Mexican person. You really see beyond just the machine, and you're recognizing the tribe. Rajas, you just see the driver. You don't, not the driver, you just see the body, and that's it. And Thomas, you just kind of very close-minded. You just see everything is just kind of one principle, like however you see the world. Like we say in Sanskrit, Atmavan Manyate Jiva. Meaning, if you see the world according to your own perception. Like for example, if someone is a thief, they'll often conclude that other people are thieves, and everyone looks like a thief to them. Or if someone is very, just like that, we perceive the world as we perceive ourselves. All right, so here, let's go back to the top. We talked about this level beyond this. So here's a level beyond this. Sattva, country home. Rajas, home in the city. Tamas, living in the red light district. So what do you think the temple is? What do you think this space is? When you add that non-material spiritual element to it, you can bring about what is called Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. It is the spiritual level. So you could have a temple in the red light district. And if we're having like discussions, like if that intention is there, then you can have a basement level kind of center in a brothel area. And if the people there are very powerful in their spiritual intentions, and the way they have it set up, people go there and feel like, wow, I feel inspired towards spiritual life just by being here. So it goes beyond all the material things, like these three gunas, they're important, but that spiritual element can go even beyond it. That's why to engage in spiritual life, we don't absolutely have to leave the cities. It can be helpful. We can stay where we're at and add that element to what we're doing. You don't have to give up your PhD and become an organic farmer with your self-sufficient farm, or what do you do as a profession?
Do product development.
Product development. It's very passionate. You don't have to give that up, because you can bring in this higher element and you can feel fully satisfied in that particular field. Because the spiritual element is not dependent on these things. There's certain things that we want to, if we can't live in the peaceful country home, but we can still make a little corner of our home, our peaceful country space. Okay, this is the space, or this is the time of day where I try to have that atmosphere to develop my own spiritual growth. So we can do that wherever we're at.
This reminds me of, so I learned here about you can engage in the world, but as long as you do it with like non-attachment, then you can operate with sattva.
Yes, yeah. Very nice, thank you. Anybody here know your Ayurvedic body type? I should show you something interesting. Who's taking an Ayurveda course? I can make it. I can send you, for your own future reference, a questionnaire. You can find out what's my body type, which is not so important for your spiritual life, but it's good, important for your health. You can kind of see. So let's see. You can see there's a lot of work to be done on this. But Ayurveda manifested in the 3 dosha types. So I'm Kapha and Pitta. So just little, these are 3 body types. And unlike the 3 gunas, there's no value to them. One is not better than the other. Sattva is better than Rajas. Rajas is better than tamas. If you're just lazy and kind of in this kind of destructive, self-destructive mood, it's better that you get out there and do something busy. That's a step up. But if you're just busy, it's better that you also become mindful. That's sattva. And then and even better than that, then you actually get some realizations of spirituality. That's even higher. So I'm Pitta. Pitta is characterized by a sense of fieriness and Kapha. Kapha is like earth. It's a sense of like, relax. Avoidance. Like one of the characteristics of Kapha is avoidance of pain. Kaphas can be kind of heavy set. Pittas can be kind of muscular. And Vatas can often be thin. Vata is very airy, a person who is a Vata nature may find themselves floating from one thing to another. They're usually very kind of busy. And Vata people often find themselves, like if you were to do a test for everyone who's like in a yoga class or something like that, they're often Vata people because they quickly feel the difference when they do some kind of health or exercise regimen. The response, how they feel after, it's a more strong response versus a Kapha person can do like a 2-week, no sugar, no dairy, no wheat diet and be like, I feel the same, I don't know why this. Where a Vata person does it, they feel like, wow, and it makes a whole big difference to them. Pittas, they have kind of like red, maybe red hair, maybe kind of flustered skin, maybe like rosy cheeks. It's a Pitta, higher. Kapha is, what else? Huggable, kind of like earth, hard to move, hard to get out of the situations. Just steady but stuck. Vata is very, like I said, kind of can be airheaded. Okay, so if any of those things sounded familiar to you, like, oh, maybe I'm this one, maybe that one, and you can see how they are. So a Vata person, this kind of airy person, when they're in Sattva, they're energetic, they're adaptable, they're flexible, quick in comprehension, good in communication, strong sense of positive spirit, able to initiate things, good capacity for positive change and movement. Now let's just see how they are in Rajas. Indecisive, unreliable, hyperactive, agitated, restless, nervous, disturbed, anxious, overly talkative, superficial, noisy, disruptive, false enthusiasm, and tamas, fearful, servile, dishonest, secretive, depressed, self-destructive, drug addict, prone to sexual perversions, mentally disturbed, suicidal. My favorite is a Pitta Tamas because he's got a whole, he's got a lot of job opportunities. So he's hateful, he's vile, he's vindictive, destructive, psychopath, and he can become a criminal, a drug dealer, or an underworld figure. So if you're a Pitta and you're looking for a new occupation, there's promising opportunities out there for you. Pitta and Kapha, that's mine. I don't know if anybody, if you don't know, find out. You can see, okay, this is what I'm shining. This is what I'm doing good. I'm Sattva. Oh, I'm being a little bit Rajas today. Oh God, I'm being kind of a little controlling or too sentimental, too much needing security. Oh God, I'm becoming coarse, a little apathetic towards others. All right. Here you can kind of see, here's some pictures of this one's got. You can see the different energies there. This guy's definitely in Thomas there. He's got Rajas, partying it up, Rajas. And then Sutras, right? It's another one here. It's the animal species and Thomas animal. It's like there's so much fearful living and being born as an animal. The birds are singing happily, but they're also, in the morning, always afraid something's going to kill them and eat them. So he'll get you something to take home with you. I think we're finished here. Go over reflections. And human life, Rajas, and the life of the higher beings, Sattva. So I know I showed a lot, but I would just want to see what are some of your takeaways. Some more. Oh, here, there's a. Does this make sense to all of you? You've never heard anything like this before, though. It's not something that it's a prominent aspect of the Vedic culture and the yoga tradition and philosophy. And so we're trying to develop these qualities because these are the qualities that really nurture a suitable soil to plant our spiritual seed of basically our own spiritual development will grow nicely. It's like, throw seeds on barren land. It's not going to really do anything. Yes.
So what is the usual way to go about, would you say? Is it to consciously chase these respective qualities in order to reverse engineer that guna in you, or do some other fix to, snap into sattva, so these qualities just emanate out of you?
Perfect. It's a two-pronged approach. It's like a train track. You got one track that's dealing with both. So you have the one is like, as you said, you tap into that spiritual element like kirtan, and then that itself helps to manifest those qualities. Because what happens? What is the nature of like an iron bar? How would you describe it? Like if you're just like an iron rod, like a rod of metal, how would you describe it to somebody?
Heavy.
Heavy. What's color? Dark. How does it feel to touch? Cold. Now, if you put it in fire, what does it become? I don't know if it becomes heavy. It probably stays heavy, but the light becomes effulgent. It has its own luminosity to it, and it becomes not warm. It becomes hot. Although it is, it's so strong in its one quality, it transforms in the association of fire. And so the mind, when we associate our mind with something that is not material, like say the mantra, we find our mind becomes like that, it becomes transformed. And then that can, as you say, like it bleeds out, transforms our own character, starts to, because when you're satisfied within, then you don't need to be greedy. When you get this own internal satisfaction, then the pleasure you get from just being lazy, or the pleasure you get from being powerful and successful, you don't have to chase that. You may still have a drive to be successful because you understand, I can use my success as a service to others. I can do things with that, but not for my own self-aggrandizement of building my own empire as my plan to be happy. So on that one side, and then the other train is that you also develop these qualities as a personal meditation. So generosity, satisfaction and condition, meaning like, okay, you're going to have a day where all kinds of bad things happen to you, New York City, something happens on the train just stops, somebody is screaming, it's crazy, it's a zoo, it's like madhouse, all kinds of things, you don't know what life's gonna throw at you, but you're just gonna be satisfied. That's called tapas or austerity. It means it's gonna be, you're gonna understand like, okay, I can't do anything about this. Train's not, I can't, train, like, what are you gonna do? There's nothing you can do. So you're just gonna like figure out, okay, how do I actually get my consciousness on a different platform? So that's called tolerance. And like that, we're gonna tolerate things that life throws. If it's something we can't change, we can't affect, then we're just gonna bring our consciousness to a different level. Simplicity. This word simplicity, these are translations of Sanskrit words. Simplicity means straightforwardness, non-duplicitous. You are who you are. Very clear person. So yeah, both tracks. One is you engage in the spiritual process that brings out those qualities, and then you practice those qualities because they're service to your spiritual process. And in Sanskrit, that's called Bhagavat Marg and Pancharatriki Marg. They actually both go hand in hand.
What's the second term?
Pancharatriki. Pancharatra. It's like you're engaging yourself in all these things that actually help on the external side.
You mentioned about like the ropes, right? So like with sattva, you're still attached to some sort of rope. Is that like a good rope, or is that like
It's the rope
a
of
problematic?
it's the rope of like, what do I need to go to the soul talks? I got my organic garden and my and I'm just enjoying sipping my tea by the lake, and everything's fine. But real sattva means you actually, if you have clear sattva means you see, okay, there are problems with material existence. There is a ending point. There's death. There's diseases. There's old age, and so you're not blind to that. You're not just overly romanticizing just like you may have a less disturbed life. If someone is in sattva, they're gonna have less problems than someone who's in tamas. But you don't want to be like that, like the person who's okay. I have now a first-class prison cell. I've got 5 channels on my TV, and the other guy's in solitary. So I could just stay here. No, make progress. Keep on going. Get out. Become fully free. Have no rope. Yes. What's your takeaway? As I used to say, doggy bag.
Brings to my mind. I'm not really familiar with this terminology, but the takeaway for me is that you were talking about conditioning at first.
Yes.
And mind-soul relationship.
Yes.
And it reminds me that it can be both. It can be a little bit of all those 3 categories.
Yeah, we're constantly flowing through.
Yeah, I myself even at nighttime, pretty much the same like in the morning. So I'm more productive mentally at nighttime, even though I live in the Red District. Since I'm associated with that. The middle part, the Pyrenees, I'm trying to overcome that because I know it's not that deep at this stage in my life. So it's like that's my takeaway. I associate with all those things. Pretty much in the Latvian category, it's in all 3 of them. So I'm aware of the things that we have to put into ourselves. exercising, eating. All those good things like being like increase the good feelings in ourselves.
Yeah.
Empathy, like compassion.
And it's not something that is commonly encouraged. This flavor, it's not a very common thing. That's part, usually you will say, okay, you got your tamas, and people say, no, get busy and build be successful. Believe in yourself and be successful. And then it's usually just these two. This much is not a very prominent flavor in our life, in the world. It's not something that it's usually, don't be lazy, be busy. That's usually the only thing that's covered in most dialogues and most outlooks on life.
But probably we don't keep in mind that following the first category can increase the other ones. It's instinctively, without really pushing hard.
Yeah.
Eat, sleep well, exercise,
Absolutely.
maybe you got more energy to accomplish the second one and leave the red district to the fullest.
So that goes into the like poison in the beginning, meaning that it's like you do that discipline, so you eat nicely. Don't just do what every donut that you see, you have that discipline, because then you find yourself not so overcome by sleep, not so overcome by lethargy, that overcome by anger, all these other things that follow along with it, that self-control. And then, like you said, the more you associate with this, then the more the other ones will become easier to tap into. The more you associate with, like, the more you hang out late at night, more likely you're gonna maybe get in some forbidden romance. Some, you're less likely to end up like that in the middle of the day or the morning. It's that kind of. Most of the time, when we do something stupid, it'll be late at night.
Or destructive.
Destructive. Like, some teenagers who come and we just want to break something just for fun at midnight, but not at 7 a.m. Brains are a little bit working better. And take homes, I think where we can stop here.
I kind of like how you mentioned we can have a combination of all of them. So you can live in the city and still have some spirituality.
Absolutely. You can build some kind of armor for it. But you've got your, okay, we said the temple, so the home was the place of residence. So how do you, the temple was called Shuddhasattva, next level, spiritual. So food, how do you take this to the next level? You cook it with love and you offer it to the divine. Then it's called prasada, which is just around the corner on that kind of schedule. So you take that food, cook with love, and you offer it to the divine. Then that food becomes Shuddhasattva. So you don't live in the city, and if you live in the city, but you're eating the food that's cooked with love, you'll find less affected by the city. Because the food is actually affecting your mood. And if you're hearing talks like this, instead of just what is it? There's Jay-Z, I don't know, I don't know if but there's some kind of nasty songs out there. Just really nasty. So if you listen to that, you're gonna find, oh yeah, the mind's going, you're gonna start seeing people as just objects. Just seeing, oh, this is just a thing, but what can this thing do for me? Versus seeing a soul. So So I think we're on good time. We're good to stop here, right?
Yeah,
Okay. I give shorter talks, but it's like trying to figure out what the schedule is, so I don't know how it's supposed to be scheduled, so.
Thank you so much. Please.